Well, thanks again for everybody that is staying till the very end of my session. As I mentioned, this this session is called Getting Unstuck. Um, Let me just share the correct screen here. There we go. All right. Can you all see the presentation? Yes. Okay. So essentially, we've all gotten stuck at some point or another during our sourcing, right? My hope with this session is that I can give you some really good ideas for where to go if you're currently feeling that right now. But first, just an obligatory about me slide. My name is Erin Mathew. My pronouns are she, her, and I have about 10 plus years in the field of talent acquisition. I've worked in industries such as government contracting, e-commerce, healthcare, education, and fintech. And I'm currently on the executive recruiting team as a sourcer at PayPal. I currently live in Asheville, North Carolina. I have a 2-year-old son. If you've been on some of my webinars before, you've probably seen, my dogs behind me. Unfortunately, the little gray and white one in that picture, Kai, passed away a couple of weeks ago, and we miss him dearly. But Faye's just moving on without him, and so that's just a little bit about me. I'm also a metalhead slash elder emo, and for any of you gatekeepers out there, if you say you can't be part of both scenes, you're wrong. So just a little bit about the agenda today. What I'm going to present to you are 3 what I like to call inspiration catalysts. And these are kind of the top 3 ways that I use to get out of my head when I feel like I'm stuck in a search and not making a lot of progress. And then we'll also talk about what it looks like to cast a wider net to be able to engage talent through messaging. And then, when do we take a look at the role itself and reevaluate it so that we can put ourselves in a better situation to fill it? And then what do we do when all else fails? So first off, feel free to drop in the chat. Have any of you ever felt like you have sourcer's block when you're trying to fill a role? And I credit Mike Chuidian for this term, sourcer's block, because it is so accurate. Anybody feeling that right now? Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we all experience it at one time or another, and it can be really frustrating. So what do we know? Everybody knows that there is an entire world outside of LinkedIn to source talent. We know that. But how do we even get ideas about where to look? So this first catalyst is what I call an inspiration catalyst. I like to start with advanced image search. And this is actually a search method that Ronnie Bratcher taught me a couple of years ago. It's really, it's an awesome way to kind of discover platforms that maybe you haven't heard of before. So let me show you exactly what I mean when I say that. So if you go to Google and you type in advanced image search, it will bring you to this page and you can start putting in your criteria. So let's say that I am maybe looking for, oh, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So first, let me back up. Why image search? Just because someone is not on LinkedIn does not mean that they don't possibly have a significant and visible presence somewhere else on the web. Just about everybody has a digital footprint on the web, whether they want to or not. And this is a type of search that can really open up possibilities to alternative platforms that maybe you didn't think to look. So let's think about this. Images of professionals can be found in so many places, whether that's press releases, maybe they've got a profile picture on a social coding platform or on their personal website or portfolio, or within an employer branding feature on maybe a careers page. So what I would start with a Google image, advanced image search, like let's say that I'm looking for, a senior director level head of product. So what I would do is I would start with this exact word or phrase, and you can construct this search however you see fit, but this is just a very base level search. So I typed in head of product at, and then I specified that I wanted to see only images of faces. So very important thing to take a look at here. So when I did this search and I said that I only want to see images with faces in them, this is kind of what the results page looks like. And as you can already see just from a quick glance, we're getting a whole variety of platforms, LinkedIn included, but we're getting some additional ideas here. So just from this simple search, we saw LinkedIn, Medium, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Vimeo, or the org. And as I was, doing some experiments with my research for this presentation, I thought, I have never sourced talent on Spotify before, so this should be interesting. Let's see what we find. So if I go back to the search here, I'll show you. We've got this Martin Feldman that came up in the search results on Spotify. So let's see what he's all about when I click into that. So what it does is it brings me to a podcast episode where he's talking about the future of product management within AI. Pretty much within any skill set, we're going to find people that have a story to share. And that's becoming just so increasingly prevalent. Everybody has a story that they want to share. They want to get the word out and find other people that relate to their story, especially within the workplace. But the best thing that I found about this is that within the episode description, he had so many different links to, the communities that he's part of. He's got his LinkedIn profile right there. He's got his Instagram as well. There's any number of ways that we could get in contact with him if maybe we listened to the podcast a little bit and, liked what we heard. So now we can find him, but let's say, I really like the idea of sourcing on Spotify. How do I find more profiles like this? So what we're going to do is go to the URL. So if you notice right here, the URL is going to be the same for any kind of podcast episode. We're going to take this part of the URL. So open.spotify.com episodes//. So this is going to be the key piece of information that we need to do in order to run a site search effectively. So we're going to take that part of the URL, and in the front of it, we're going to add site : and then our URL. And then from here, we can add any kind of criteria that we want. So let's say that we want to look for someone with maybe the phrase head of product, director of product, or VP of product. And then let's see what actually comes from this search. So as you can see, it's bringing up a lot of podcast episodes, and I'm already seeing just in the research results, like we've got right here, Slack's VP of product. We have, there's someone from Netflix that came up in this search. And we've got 10 more pages within the Google search to be able to look through these podcasts and find people that maybe otherwise wouldn't have come up in a search. And, I recognize that not everybody on this webinar is necessarily working in tech or product. So I did test it out to see if it would work for other industries. And I was amazed to find how many people have a podcast. So for example, right here, I've got the sample URL site search that I was using before. So let's say that we want to find someone in healthcare. So we could try out registered nurse or RN. Very simple search and see what we can find. And as expected, there are quite a lot of RNs out there sharing their stories on podcasts on Spotify. So really, this is, I would say a largely untapped network for people, on the web. So I would highly recommend that you try this method out. So obviously, Spotify is not the only place. Can you add industry to this search, Ashley Maxwell? Yes, I did. I actually tried. That's actually a great call out because there are often podcasts just about industry specific discussion points and not just job titles. I did one for fintech because that's the industry that I currently work in right now. And yeah, there's so much to find if you just simply put an industry. Let's try like fintech and software engineer. We can get really specific about what function within there. Yeah, there we go. Software engineer and fintech. Yeah, someone from Neobank, someone from Klarna. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back to this one. Thank you for that idea. um, so this is great. This is great stuff, everyone. Thank you so much for the questions. Crypto and blockchain, David Marr. Yes, there are a ton of podcasts for that. Yes, Junius, there are GovCon podcasts as well. I actually did some of those searches specifically to research this. So how else can we source a website with the URL method if the URL method doesn't work? Sometimes a website isn't going to have a specific type of, landing page URL that we can use that method for. This is when I try out other methods with text within the page. So Behance.net is a really good example of this because all of their profile pages have a specific phrase, which is member since. So the way that we can use this is we can build a site search similar to how we did the previous one, but we're just going to do site:behance.net. And then we're going to add the phrase in quotations, member since. So yes, David, an anchor word. That's what the word I was looking for. Yeah, natural language query. Definitely some of my favorite Boolean operators. So we're going to try site:behance.net, member since. And then we can search our keywords like head of UX design, UX director, UX design lead. So that's just one other way. If you find a platform through that advanced image search method and you just want to be able to find more profiles like that, it really opens up a whole realm of possibilities. So that brings me to inspiration catalyst number 2. So I have really been using any kind of large language models to get inspiration when I feel like I'm stuck in a search. And I've heard a lot of people saying, oh, AI is going to take away our jobs and everything like that. Well, no, this is actually a feature that greatly enhances my job because I'm not asking it to find the candidates for me. I'm asking it to give me ideas of what could I potentially be missing or what could I potentially not be thinking of. So, for example, maybe I want to target certain companies within a certain industry, but I'm never going to know every single one. There's just too many. I can start by asking the language model, list 20 companies that operate, in the e-commerce industry. Very simple command. And we'll see if ChatGPT agrees with me today, because it never does when I present live. But look at that, it did today. Wonderful. So we have this list of 20 companies. A good number of them I've heard of before, but most of them I probably wouldn't just think off the top of my head. So I can kind of pick and choose which ones I've already sort of targeted and figure out where I can strategize next to look for. And then the next part of this makes it very easy for me. I can just say, put all of these company names into a Boolean string. And it will do it soon. And what I don't like is that the default is they put the Boolean string with OR operators. I'm a big fan of the bar operator because it makes for a few less characters. So we can fix that very easily and say, rewrite this string, replacing the OR operator with a bar. There you go. And then we can copy and paste that wherever we please to continue running our search. So in terms of my next catalyst, number 3, my third and final inspiration catalyst, toolboxes. If you've been in the sourcing community for even a minute, I'm sure that you know that there is a wealth of toolboxes that many of your peers have created over the years, and they can really be a wealth of inspiration as well as knowledge. Anyone that has been to Dean DaCosta's SSAR pages, I'm sure has been blown away with them. I have been both blown away and completely overwhelmed by that toolbox, but it's always, a consistent way that I can go in and find something that maybe I've never used before. So really, I encourage you to take a look through some of these. I actually created for you a toolbox of toolboxes. So if you have your phone out, please feel free to scan that code. And it's just a little curated list that I have of a couple of toolboxes to get you started. There are far more than what's listed here, but this is just a couple of them. And what I like to say about these toolboxes is maybe you won't find the answer to what you're looking for. Maybe you won't find even more candidates for the search that you're looking for. But I always find that when I go down that sourcing rabbit hole, it's without a doubt, I always come back with a better state of mind and refreshed to change course. So even that alone is a valuable thing to have. And I did bring up that QR code again, and I'll be posting the link in the chat after this as well. But yeah, I'll leave this up for a few more seconds. But again, toolboxes. I've built probably about 25 of them, just for various reasons. And sometimes I forget that I even put some of those resources in my own, and I go back to them for inspiration every so often. All right. So now that we have our 3 inspiration catalysts, after we've done all that, here's just a couple of other tips to help you get unstuck. Finding the talent that you're missing through messaging. And I'll tell you what I mean by this. We have to remember that a resume or LinkedIn profile is not always going to tell the whole story, right? There's plenty of things that I do on a daily basis or that I'm skilled in on a daily basis that I've come to realize, oh, I don't have that on my resume. Maybe if somebody's looking for that experience, they would never find me. So we can find the right talent that we're missing by broadening a search and filtering through messaging. So at one point, I was working on a high volume sourcing project for mobile developers. And after a couple of months of this, I felt like there was nobody new left to reach out to on the market in the place that we were specifically searching for people. So what I did is I stopped narrowing my searches. I stopped searching for mobile developer, iOS developer, Android developer. I didn't even put the programming languages associated with mobile development like Swift and Kotlin, none of those. I went as basic as you could possibly go, and I started searching just software engineer, web developer, and so on. And what I did from there is I generated large lists of people with this title, and I tailored my messaging. Basically I said, we're currently looking for mobile developers. I didn't see this skill set on your profile, but I recognize that it may not tell the whole story about you. If you do in fact have mobile development experience, I would love to speak with you. And I also note that, even if it's not your specific skill set and you want to talk, let's still have a conversation. And the effect that this messaging had was absolutely monumental. I not only found more mobile developers that just didn't have that listed on their resume, I made a whole lot of hires outside of the roles that I was assigned. I actually made more hires of other people's recs that weren't mine because of that messaging, and because I was having more conversations. Is there anything about the job title itself that is preventing candidates from applying? This is kind of where we get to the stage of, do we need to reevaluate the role itself? Sometimes it can be as simple as the job title. One of my favorite tools for this is using Google Trends. At one point, I was searching for DevOps engineers that worked in the fintech space. So the job title that we had at that company was Cloud DevOps, and then in parentheses, FinOps. So it's really kind of a little bit more of a complicated title with, a very specific skill set within that, versus it truly was a DevOps engineer position with a specialization. If you look at interest over time within Google Trends for what people are searching for, DevOps engineer beats out Cloud DevOps, FinOps by a lot, because nobody is searching for that title. It's way too specific. So what I did in this case is I pulled this search up live with the hiring manager, and I compared the 2 titles, and I said, why don't we just post this as a DevOps engineer and specify the actual experience that we're looking for in the job description. And sure enough, that kind of opened the floodgates for all of the candidates that we were actually looking for. And then finally, analyzing the job description. Is there subtle bias within the job ad that is maybe dissuading some people from applying, especially diverse candidates? Gender Decoder is one of these really awesome free tools that I've used from time to time. So I would highly recommend analyzing the job description. If you have access to a tool like Text.io, I really love that one. But this is a tool that I use when I don't have a budget for great stuff like that. And then when all else fails, I ask that you lean on your community, like the one that we're in right now. I have to say that without the people in this community, I would not have the skills that I have. I would not have the career that I do. It's not unusual if I am stuck in a wreck that I just reach out to some of my friends within this community and I ask if they have any ideas. And 9 times out of 10, they do. Maybe you've got a friend and you can say like, hey, you want to swap a rec with me? I'll try yours, you try mine. We'll see if we come up with any ideas that the other person hasn't thought of before. So I really, encourage you, lean on this community, reach out to me, reach out to any of the speakers at this conference. And sure enough, I've gotten through my content way too quick, but I think that that's okay. So I encourage all of you to connect with me. That is my email, and that QR code is for my LinkedIn profile. So again, please feel free to reach out to me. Show you how to source on Reddit. Yes, I have a toolbox for that, David.
Well, Erin, if we have some time, maybe let's ask the audience if you have any questions right now. Throw it in the Q&A portion, and we can start firing away some questions.
Okay, great.
I got one question for you. Who introduced you to sourcing, the technical portion of sourcing, and how long has it taken you to equip all this knowledge and then use it practically in your everyday job?
So I was introduced to the technical world of sourcing when I first joined the company FTD Companies. So that was an e-commerce company, and I wasn't purely a technical sourcer for that role. It was really kind of a little bit of everything. It was finance, it was marketing, it was product. But the engineering part of it was what I had the biggest learning curve ever with. And really, gosh, I did not fully grasp a lot of the tech terms until I went ahead and took some software engineering intro courses myself. It really kind of took that much for me. I think I took a couple of like intro courses through General Assembly that were free at the time. So that's what really finally made it click. Like, okay, this is front end development. This is back end development. This is what they mean by an API. So really, I kind of had to learn by doing with that and by coding my own crappy HTML website that looked like it was made in 1997. So
a couple more. It says, let's see. How do you handle high volume sourcing with multiple different roles?
Yeah, so I think that if you have multiple different roles with high volume sourcing, really the method that I was talking about with casting a wide net, that's definitely one that helps out with that. If you can be general enough to say like, hey, I didn't see that on your resume. If you have it, I'd like to talk. Even if you don't, I'd like to talk. It's really just about having conversations as long as someone is in the same realm of what you're looking for at this time. So I think that especially in this job market, candidates are so open and willing to connect as long as you have the time for them and you make the time for them, which you really should.
To capture that, one person asked, what is your favorite subject line in an email?
Oh my gosh. I love the bad dad jokes that I do for some of the tech roles, like Linux isn't software development, it's pseudoscience or something like that. Gosh, I've had so many. Oh, okay. So here's one subject line that always gets responses, and you guys can use this too because fall is coming up. I'll say something stupid like pumpkin spice jobs are back at PayPal or something like that. And people always respond because it's just so ridiculous.
Got it. There's a question in the chat talking about titles. Does the
Yeah.
term headhunter have a positive or negative connotation?
I don't know. I kind of cringe when I hear headhunter. I feel like I'm an assassin or something.
Okay. Another one. How do you learn about new sourcing strategies that you utilize? Like what your thought process is, your sourcing process, and how often do you tweak that process?
All the time. Oftentimes because of necessity, like anytime that Google decides to change their search algorithm, I have to pivot. But there's always a way. It may not always be an easy way. There's plenty of search methods that have gone the way of the dinosaur that I desperately miss, but that's just always going to be a reality of sourcing. But when you find a good tool, use it until you can't use it anymore because chances are it's going to go away.
Okay, awesome. We maybe have if anybody has, throw it in the chat, maybe 2 more minutes of this. What is your favorite sourcing or surfing or sourcing tool? I think they said
My favorite sourcing tool, paid or unpaid?
both.
Both. Okay. My favorite unpaid sourcing tool is Google custom search engines. I love creating those all day, every day. My favorite paid tool, not to, be a total brown noser, but definitely Hire Easy.
And is that in a certain space or just in
Yes.
general?
What I've found with Hire Easy is that it has been my saving grace in executive search. I will tell you that. I only started an executive search at PayPal about a year ago, and that was a major, major learning curve for me. It's just amazing how titles and leveling can vary between companies. Like an SVP at one company can be only a director at another company, and you just kind of have to develop an awareness of where that is. But in terms of being able to filter out executive level candidates, Hire Easy has been pretty spot on with that.
Got it. Any last minute word of advice for the audience as we wrap up?
I would say, if you feel like you're stuck, get a second opinion, take a break, go down the sourcing rabbit hole, even if it's, having fun with some weird OSINT tools that you didn't know about before, even if it's not, directly related to the search, come back with a refreshed mind, because if you sit there until you figure it out, you're going to drive yourself absolutely nuts.